The sky had been grey the day Edward Hale buried his daughter, as though even the heavens refused to shine on such unbearable grief. Edward, a man known across cities and continents as a powerful billionaire, stood beside a small white coffin that seemed far too fragile to carry the weight of his shattered world. Wealth had always protected him from life's harshest storms, but on that day, no amount of money, power, or influence could shield his heart from breaking. His daughter, Lila, had been the only light in his otherwise cold and calculated life. She was laughter in his quiet halls, warmth in his vast empty mansion, and love in a heart that had long forgotten how to feel. As the coffin was lowered into the earth, Edward's mind refused to accept reality. He remembered her soft giggles echoing through the house, her tiny hands tugging at his sleeve, her voice calling him Papa with pure affection. The doctors had said her illness was sudden and aggressive. One moment she had been playing in the garden, chasing butterflies, and the next, she was fading away in a hospital bed, her small body too weak to fight. Edward had tried everything: private doctors, experimental treatments, even flying her overseas, but nothing worked. After the funeral, Edward became a ghost of himself. He shut down emotionally, burying himself in business to escape the unbearable silence at home. The mansion, once filled with Lila's laughter, now felt like a tomb. Every room held memories that stabbed his heart. Her toys lay untouched, her drawings still pinned to the walls, and her favorite blanket remained neatly folded on her bed. Unable to bear it any longer, Edward abandoned the house entirely. He locked its gates, sealed its doors, and moved into a luxury penthouse in the city, convincing himself that leaving the past behind was the only way to survive. Years passed. Edward grew colder, more distant. His empire expanded, his wealth multiplied, but his soul remained empty. People admired his success, envied his fortune, but none knew the truth, that the richest man in the room was also the loneliest. He had buried not just his daughter, but also the part of himself that knew how to love. And yet, deep within him, a quiet voice sometimes whispered in the silence of night, a voice that refused to let go, a voice that still believed something wasn't right. But Edward always silenced it, telling himself it was just grief playing tricks on his mind. After all, he had seen her lifeless body. He had stood at her grave. He had said goodbye. Or so he believed. 5 years later, Edward found himself standing in front of the abandoned mansion once again. Time had not been kind to it. The once beautiful gardens were overgrown. The paint had begun to peel, and the windows looked dull and lifeless. He had avoided this place for years, but something had drawn him back, a strange feeling he couldn't explain. At first, it was just a business decision. His advisors had suggested selling the property, as it was wasting away unused. But as Edward stepped through the rusted gates, a wave of memories crashed over him. Every step felt heavier than the last, as though the house itself was holding onto the past, refusing to let him forget. Inside, dust covered every surface, and the air felt thick with silence. Edward walked slowly through the halls, his heart pounding with each step. He paused outside Lila's room, his hand trembling as he reached for the doorknob. He hadn't opened that door since the day she died. Taking a deep breath, he turned the knob. The room was just as he had left it, almost. Her toys were still there. Her drawings still decorated the walls. But something felt different. There was a faint sense of life, something fresh, something recent. Edward frowned, stepping further inside. Then he noticed it. A small cup sat on the table. Clean. His breath caught in his throat. That wasn't possible. No one had been in this house for years. His heart began to race as he scanned the room. The bedsheets were slightly wrinkled, as though someone had recently sat on them. The window was slightly open, letting in a gentle breeze. Edward's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. "Hello." He called out, his voice echoing through the house. Silence answered him. He moved quickly now, checking each room, his unease growing with every step. Then, just as he reached the hallway, he heard it. A faint sound. Footsteps. Light, soft footsteps. Edward froze. His heart pounded so loudly he could hear it in his ears. Slowly, he turned toward the sound, his eyes scanning the shadows. And then, he saw her, a small figure standing at the end of the hallway. For a moment, time stopped. Edward's breath hitched as tears filled his eyes. His mind screamed that it couldn't be real, that this was impossible. But his heart knew. "Lila," he whispered, his voice breaking. The little girl stepped forward into the light. She looked exactly the same. Edward stumbled backward, his legs weak, his mind overwhelmed. The girl standing before him was unmistakably Lila, his daughter, the child he had buried 5 years ago. Her hair, her eyes, her small frame, everything was the same. But how? How could this be possible? "Papa," she said softly. The sound of her voice shattered whatever remained of Edward's disbelief. It was her. It was truly her. He dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he reached out with trembling hands. "Lila, is it really you?" He whispered. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears as well. Then she ran into his arms. The moment he held her, everything changed. She was warm, alive. "Rael," Edward sobbed uncontrollably, clutching her tightly as though afraid she would disappear if he let go. For years, he had lived with the pain of losing her, convincing himself she was gone forever. And now, here she was, alive in his arms, but as the initial shock faded, confusion and questions flooded his mind. How are you here?" he asked, pulling back slightly to look at her. Lila hesitated, her expression uncertain. I never left," she said quietly. Edward's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" She looked down, her small hands fidgeting. "That day, at the hospital, I woke up, but there were strangers around me. I got scared. I didn't know where you were, so I ran away." Edward's blood ran cold. "What?" he whispered. "They thought I was someone else," she continued. "I tried to tell them my name, but no one listened. I was so scared, Papa. I just wanted to come home." Edward felt like the ground had been ripped out from beneath him. "But the doctors, they told me you were gone." Lila shook her head. "I wasn't. I was just lost." Tears streamed down Edward's face as the horrifying truth began to sink in. There had been a mistake, a terrible, unimaginable mistake. Somehow, in the chaos of the hospital, his daughter had been declared dead when she was still alive. "And you've been here all this time?" he asked, his voice trembling. She nodded slowly. "I came back home. I thought you would come back too." Edward's heart broke all over again. For 5 years, his daughter had been living alone in the abandoned house, waiting for him. Edward could barely comprehend the pain his daughter must have endured. A child, alone in a silent house, surviving day by day, clinging to the hope that her father would return. It was unimaginable, and yet it was real. "How did you survive?" he asked softly. Lila gave a small shrug. "There was food at first, and I learned how to get more. Sometimes kind people helped me without knowing who I was." Edward closed his eyes, guilt crushing him. While he had been living in luxury, drowning in his own sorrow, his daughter had been fighting to survive alone. "I thought, maybe you didn't want me anymore," she admitted, her voice trembling. Edward's heart shattered completely. "No, Lila. Never. I thought I lost you. I thought you were gone forever." She looked up at him, searching his face. "Really?" He cupped her face gently. "You are my world. I would never leave you." For a moment, they simply held each other, both trying to make up for the lost years in a single embrace. And the days that followed, Edward devoted himself entirely to Lila. He took her to the best doctors, ensuring she was healthy and safe. He reported the hospital's mistake, demanding answers. But no explanation could undo the pain of the past 5 years. What mattered now was the future. Edward moved back into the mansion, restoring it not as a monument to grief, but as a home filled with love once again. Lila's laughter returned to the halls, brighter and more precious than ever. This time, Edward didn't take a single moment for granted. He learned that wealth could buy many things, but not time, not love, and certainly not second chances. And yet, somehow, life had given him one. Every night, as he tucked Lila into bed, he whispered the same words, his voice filled with gratitude and love. "I'm here, my princess. I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time in years, Edward Hale was no longer the loneliest man in the world. He was simply a father who had been given his daughter back.